Financial Action Task Force has put South Africa on high alert over its weak financial regulation. Now the country faces possible greylisting, and the government has till October to demonstrate that it has a plan to sort out its deficiencies. But what does this all mean for our economy? Well, Stanlib Chief Compliance Officer Njabulo Duma joins us now live to just give us more details. Thank you so much, Mr. Duma, for your time here on eNCA. Just first of all, explain to us exactly what this grey list is.
Thanks, Ms. Akwa. So effectively, the grey list is a group of countries where FATF feels that their anti-money laundering and terrorist financing regimes are deficient, and such deficiencies of a strategic nature. And that's broadly what the grey listing is. So FATF says because of that, you've got to be under enhanced monitoring, where you commit at a high level, political level, you commit on resolving all of those deficiencies within a time frame, and we will keep monitoring you as a country.
So once again, it's self-inflicted. We find ourselves here because of what the world is seeing when it comes to how susceptible we are to the system being broken down by some individuals who are corrupt, whether it be government or business, right? So what needs to happen by October for government to be able to make sure that we don't make it on this grey list?
Yeah. So FATF has identified the issues that we need to resolve, and as you say, we were given until October to do exactly that. And government has taken a number of actions in the process to be able to get us across the line. The reason we are having this debate at this point in time is because, there was a feeling that we left this too late and too chance. But we are seeing some of the positive developments taking place in the form of a bill and some of the key activities that are being pursued by regulatory authorities along the side, led by the Inter-Ministerial Committee. So that's exactly what the government is busy with now.
So it's going to prove to be quite a huge mess, right? If we find ourselves on this grey list, we are already a country that is suffering. What would this mean in terms of investors, potential investors and those who are already here?
Masako, this thing is huge, has got huge impact. And I mean, the speakers have expressed in different forms and variations in terms of what that looks like. But effectively, this is just a dent in your attractiveness as a country, in terms of you being an investment destination. And you can imagine what happens when your attractiveness gets a dent. So we start from there. Secondly, as a function of a body like FATF expressing a view about the deficient nature of your anti-money laundering and combating of terrorist financing regime, effectively everyone is cautious in engaging with you. And that caution translates into additional costs, because now people have got to put parallel processes along the lines to be able to remain assured that dealing and continued engagement with you doesn't pose additional risk in their own lives. And you can imagine that being a huge disincentive for anyone who has to deal with a country like South Africa. So effectively for investors, it means the processes you'd have known in engaging with your financial services providers is effectively going to change. If they asked for 2 requirements in the past, they are suddenly going to ask for 7 or 10 of those particular requirements. And you can imagine the frustration that goes with such a process. In certain instances, we've had trustworthiness with our global partners where we had a reliance arrangement. They didn't really need to look at the underlying clients in dealing with entities in South Africa. Once you go to a grey list, that effectively shuts down. It means they must now go to a level of understanding the clients that you deal with, and with the admin and the cost that is involved in that. It's just a huge disincentive. So those are inconveniences, some of them that come to an ordinary investor in South Africa.
So this bill basically that the finance minister has tabled before Parliament, before it comes into law, etc. The discussions around that, Mr. Duma, do you find that those discussions and this bill will assist us to make sure that we don't find ourselves on this grey list after October, after this deadline in October? I mean, Bazugile Diko, she's my boss, and she's telling me that Syria is part of this particular list. I mean, that is very concerning to imagine South Africa on a list along with countries that have gone through such terrible times in terms of war.
Exactly the point, Maseko. So you start exactly there. The list contains countries like Syria, Libya, South Sudan, Haiti, and many others. And you can imagine South Africa alongside countries like that, which is why really most responsible corporate citizens like Stanlib have really taken the chance to raise the flag, and many others, to say, guys, we really need to avoid this particular eventuality. So you start from there. The bill is a huge welcome, and again, it addresses the right issues, because one of the things identified by FATF is really the strength of our legislative framework to do what we need to do. And that bill contains a number of acts, and there are various amendments in terms of some of the concepts that we use, like your politically exposed persons, your beneficial ownership. So we definitely need to zero in on that. So it's a huge welcome. The only residual concern is the timeline, in terms of which we'll deal that particular bill. If our deadline is by the end of October, we know the uncertainty that comes with a legislative process, because some of the contest of the views could mean that the process takes longer than it would ordinarily have had to. And if it takes longer than our deadline, then we are left to the mercy of a body like FATF to really make a decision on whether or not our action plans are really satisfactory in addressing their concerns.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duma, for speaking to us. Hopefully this will assist us. I mean, at least we've had 2 consecutive quarters where employment has improved, and although it's not where we'd like it, something like this would actually take us way back to where we don't want to see ourselves. That was Stanlib Chief Compliance Officer Njabulo Duma joining us there to explain this grey list and what it would mean for our economy.